Hi everybody, Angela Fair here. It's just about Christmas and I'm just sitting here at the kitchen table with my kids. We are doing a 25-year tradition in my family. I've been doing this since I was a little girl of decorating Christmas cookies. And I'm sure that if you're celebrating Christmas like me, you probably have a similar tradition. But I find that our technique for decorating cookies is a little bit different. So I wanted to share it today because it kind of lines up with what I do in my career as a watercolor artist. So let's take a look and I'll show you how we decorate cookies in the Fair household. So here I have my recipe for painted sugar cookies and 4 cookies that we haven't decorated yet. And as you can see, they're just iced with a plain white frosting, and this is a frosting that hardens to a really nice, shiny, firm consistency. So we make sure that our icing is completely dry and firm before we ever start decorating. The other ingredient we need is food coloring, and as you can see we've got 4 primary colors here, or rather 3 primaries in green. Not sure why, but with the liquid food colorings that's the main colors that you can get. I have had a box of neon food coloring as well, and we can use that if we want a little pink and purple, but mostly they are, we stick to the primary colors for Christmas. And then what we do is we just take our food coloring and we drip a little bit into a dish. And I'm just using my kitchen, my household family dishes. So when we're not painting cookies, we're eating supper off these vintage plates. And then a paintbrush. And I make sure my paintbrush is very clean, wash it out with soap before I ever touch it to food coloring or use one that's just for the purpose. And you want a brush that comes to a nice point. And then really it's just a matter of going in and painting on some cookies. So let's do that. Okay, I think I'm going to do this little round cookie. This is actually a donut cutter that I used to cut this out, but it works really well at Christmas for a wreath. And I don't like to cover the whole cookie with food coloring. Not only would that taste disgusting, but if you get your icing too wet, then you're going to end up with soggy icing. It is going to affect the consistency, the hardness of the icing. So I'm just going to go around. I'm going to leave a space at the top for maybe a Christmassy bow and just some little brush strokes. You can mix the food coloring. If I want brown, I mix red and green, and I'll show you that in a second. And then the other thing I was experimenting with this year was using this almond extract to thin a color, so I dilute it so it's a little paler. If you use water, then it's going to make the icing soggy. But I think using maybe some food grade alcohol, if you have alcohol at home that's nice and clear, that would work. And I was just diluting it with a little bit of that almond extract because that's the flavoring that's in the icing to begin with. But again, I wouldn't want to do an excess of it. Now I haven't practiced my bows since last year, painting bows. So it's probably not going to be beautiful, but it's just kind of fun. One thing I like about this is that it's really easy to do with kids. And my children have been painting sugar cookies since they were probably 2 or 3 years old. And so they've got lots of years of experience as well, because they're a little older than that now, 9, 11, and 12. And well, they do get stained fingers from the food coloring. They're not eating icing nonstop. We're not wrestling with icing bags and clogged up icing tips. And so it does seem like it makes that decorating just a little bit easier. I'm going to mix a little green and a little red until I get a brown that I like. That looks good. And then I'm going to make a few little pine cones. And we're just suggesting shapes just the same way I do when I'm doing watercolor painting. Just a few little pine cones to give our wreath a little more interest. There, and now I'm going to set it aside and let it dry, and then it'll all be ready to give or to eat. I have a few more over here. I have a few over here that I finished already. And the piece one is still drying. That's kind of fun. Another thing we like to do is just do rectangular cookies and put people's names on them and give them. You can put some holes in the cookie and hang it from your Christmas tree. The ice, at least if you're in a dry climate like we are. So these are a lot of fun to make. And I think it's a pretty painless way to decorate cookies and end up with a beautiful effect. So I'll be posting the recipe for the cookies and the icing in the description, and so you can take a look and maybe try your own Christmas painted sugar cookies.